Today on Kemp Outside, we're going to talk about the bane of every camper, hiker, and fisherman's existence. We're talking about bugs and how to repel them on Kemp Outside. Check it out. Hey guys, I'm Kevin with Kemp Outside, your inside source for all things outside. Before I go any further, please hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon that'll notify you when we release new videos, and go ahead and hit that like button for me. So Kemp Outside is all about helping moms and dads take their kids camping, fishing, hiking, and learning about nature. We want to help you get outside, whether you're an experienced outdoorsman or you've never done it in your life. We want to help you. And so one of the big things about being outside is being comfortable. And no one is comfortable when they're being harassed by bugs. And so whether you're talking mosquitoes or flies or no-see-ums, all of those things can make an otherwise really awesome trip uncomfortable or disappointing or just downright miserable. There's a number of ways to protect yourself from insects. The simplest way is long sleeves and long pants. But for us in Florida, that is not an option, especially in the summertime when it's hot and humid. It's not an option. I would overheat wearing long sleeves and long pants all the time when I'm camping and fishing and that kind of thing. And so what we're really looking at is bug repellents. And so there's a lot of bug repellent remedies out there. Some you put on your skin, some you don't. Everything from Avon's Skin So Soft, a lot of people use, to I've heard like mint leaves in lemons and stuff like that. I've never tried that, but what I have found works really well is bug repellent spray. And this is an old can of bug repellent that I have here. And so Off-brand makes it, like you've heard of, like Deep Woods Off. There are several sprays that say like Sportsman or Woodland Trail or those kinds of things. And what you're really looking for is the active ingredient. Let me see if I can get it. See if I can get it right here. So the active ingredient, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, maybe I need to back it out, is DEET, okay? And I don't really know what DEET is, but it definitely seems to keep bugs away. And so, spraying the stuff on your clothes is really good, but you really don't want to put that stuff on your skin, much. I worked as a wildlife biologist for 15 years, actually 16 years, and my specialty was freshwater wetlands and lakes and rivers and streams. And so, I was where the bugs lived, and I put that stuff on my skin all the time. And I remember one time I put DEET on my skin, and I was carrying a red plastic clipboard, and it literally melted the plastic of the clipboard onto my arm. I looked down, and my whole arm was red, and it was just covered in melted plastic. And I thought to myself, geez, I don't know that I want to keep putting this stuff on my skin if it's going to melt plastic. What's it doing to me? So I started looking for alternatives. And years ago, I came across a company called Thermacell. And so I picked up one of these. And this is a Thermacell, and this is one of their portable units. They sell a whole bunch of different types of Thermacells, and I started buying them. And basically what they do is they burn butane, a little bottle of butane, and that burns inside the unit, and you put a little wafer in there or mat, and it has mosquito repellent in it. And as the pad heats up or the mat heats up, it emits that repellent, causing there to be in the air, I guess, a chemical or a scent or something that bugs don't like, and so they avoid the area. And Thermacell claims that these work up to like a 15-foot radius from you. And so I started using these things, and I got to tell you, I love them. I think they work fantastic. They've worked for me when I'm fishing, when I'm camping, when I'm working on the car in the driveway, like if I'm changing the oil and it's we, you know, in the middle of the summer and it's wet outside. We in Florida, we have mosquitoes, you know, all day. So they work fantastic. They help keep flies away. They've helped keep no-see-ums away, mosquitoes. They work fantastic, but there are some limitations, which I'm going to go over here in a few minutes. But I have owned these things for years. As a matter of fact, this is an old one. It's the oldest one I have. I've had a couple that are older than this, and I've given them away. Quick story, I ran into a guy that I kind of became friends with, and he was homeless. And he was living in the woods and just getting torn up by mosquitoes. And so I had an old screen house that I wasn't using anymore. I'd bought a new screen house, and so I had this thing just sitting in my garage. And so I gave him a screen house, and I said, you know, here, use that. And then I got the idea to give him my Thermacell, because I knew I was going to get some new ones. So I gave him a Thermacell and some refill kits, and I said, here, run this thing at least at night when you're sleeping or that kind of thing, to try and not get eaten up. And so so I gave it to him. But anyway, so these things, you know, highly recommend. Fortunately, and I'll be honest here, I was running 2 Thermacells, and my other Thermacell broke. It stopped. It didn't seem like it was getting enough gas. So it wouldn't stay lit. And so I contacted Thermacell. Unfortunately, it was like 5 years old, and so it was out of warranty. So I went ahead and I ordered some new ones. And so Thermacell has come out with some new ones. And this, they look like this. They have a couple of models, but this is the MR300. And so I thought I would just go over that one. So here it is in the box. And when you get it, basically what it comes with is it comes with the Thermacell appliance itself. It comes with a butane bottle, right? That's the fuel that burns. And then it comes with 3 of these pads. And that is the pad that holds, or what they call a mat, that holds the bug repellent. And then it comes with a little manual. So I figured what I'd do is I'd show you guys how to set it up, and then I'll go over some pros and cons. So let me get the camera switched around, and we'll get rolling. Okay, so setting these things up is really easy. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pull the black cap off, and so you just push wherever that little arrow is. Just push, not very hard. Just push a little bit and pull, and it'll come right off. And what you can see there is that's where the butane bottle screws in. So I have one, what they do is they come like this, and you just take the cap off. So you can just pop it off like that. And there's the little cap that goes inside. This is a full bottle, and I have one that's only half used that came out of my broken Thermacell. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put it in just with this one. And I'll save the new one for next time. So basically, you just insert it in, and then you screw it until it's tight, right? So just like that. Okay, and then you put your cap back on. So it just needs to go in. There we go. So it's together. Now what you need to do is you need to put one of these pads, or mats. I guess I should call them mats. That's what Thermacell calls them. So you need to put one of these mats in, and they have a little notch right there. So you can just easily tear, right? And so these blue pads hold the bug repellent. And so you just slide it in. Now, one thing to be careful about is when these things are on, so they're burning butane, and think of this little metal piece that's under there as like a burner. And so as it gets hot, it's kind of like a griddle almost, and when it gets hot, the chemical in this pad will waft into the air. So if you're changing out these pads when the appliance is hot, be careful, because you can burn yourself as you're putting those in. Typically what I'll do is if I'm changing one out that's hot, I'll start with a pad that's, you know, I'll push it halfway in and I'll take the old pad out, and be careful because it'll be hot, but then I bring it back in and I push this one in the rest of the way so that my fingers aren't getting anywhere close to here. So then what we do to turn it on, it's very simple. See this switch here goes from off to on. That turns on the gas, and then you hit this start button. There's a little eye right there, and so when you hit it, I don't know if you can see, but now it's starting to glow. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, so you can see it glowing in there. Here, I'm going to turn it off so you see what it looks like when it goes out. See it? So it's out. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to turn it on, then I'm going to hit the start button. Yep, and so it's ignited and it's glowing. Now what it's going to do is it's going to heat up, and then this is going to start emitting the chemical. So that's basically how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it back off because they tell you not to run these things in the house, and it's rainy today, so I can't do it outside. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it back off. And so that's basically how you set up and run a Thermacell. So as you can see, Thermacells are LE approved. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of Thermacells. So the pros are they're inexpensive. I think these Thermacells are like 20 to 25 bucks. So they're inexpensive, and then you can get the refill kits where you can get more of the butane and more of the mats. So you don't have to continue to buy the appliance, you just buy the refills, which is great. They're very easy to use, they're very easy to light and start, but they do recommend that you do not use them indoors, that you don't use them in enclosed spaces, including tents, but you shouldn't have bugs in your tent anyway, so I don't understand why you'd want to run one in there. But you want to run them open air. And then the other major pro that I can think of is that you're not putting DEET on your skin. So that is a huge thing for me. Anytime I can avoid putting a cancer-causing chemical on my skin, I'm going to do that. So that's great. The downside is that these things don't work that well in the wind. So when it's breezy, especially if the wind is changing directions a lot, it will disperse the scent that it's putting in the air, and then the bugs can come in. Now, if it's really windy, typically you don't have bugs anyway, so that's helpful. But I have found that on days where it's breezy and still buggy, they work a little less effectively. If you have a pretty constant wind direction, what you want to do is you want to set it uphill or upwind of where you are, so that the wind blows those fumes over your area, so that it helps. If you want it to work for no-see-ums, so like a lot of times no-see-ums just seem to attack my legs. If you want it to work, you can't have it setting on a table or something like that beside you. What I do is I set it right under my camp chair. So these things are designed to sit on a level, flat surface. They're designed to sit just like this. You can, I have seen, like, they have holsters, and so I have seen people, kind of run them vertically like this. I've actually done that. I used to have a holster, and I would keep one on me when I was camping, especially, I've done some deer hunting here in Florida, especially during muzzleloader season or archery season where it's still really warm. I mean, I was deer hunting one time and it was 90 degrees, and I'm sitting in the stand sweating like crazy, really wondering why I'm doing that. And I had like 3 of these Thermacells going just to keep the bugs away, and one of them in a holster. But anyway, they're designed really to sit just like this, and to be used. So if you want more space, because it just says like a 15 by 15 foot zone, what you want to do is you want to set several of these things out and around, and that's why I have 3 of them. Is I'll set them about 6 or 7 feet apart, so that the zones overlap, and then I get a much better coverage area with more chemical in the air, so that it protects us from the bugs a whole lot better. And then if we're in a site where there's a lot of no-see-ums, I'll put one under each person's camp chair, just to try and help them, unless it's windy, and then I put it up upwind, like I said. They do not work right when you turn them on. So this is another con, right? So when you get there, wherever it is that you're going to be, what you want to do is you want to turn them on immediately, because it'll take about a half hour for that that little kind of burner area to heat up enough to start emitting fumes from the wafer, and they put enough fumes in the air that it drives the bugs away. So be prepared if you roll into a campsite, or another time I use it is when I'm filleting fish. So I get back to the boat ramp and I'm filleting fish right there. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've been eaten alive filleting fish at a boat ramp. A lot of times once you get there, and you start filleting fish right away, that Thermacell is not going to kick in for about a half hour. If you can, set it up a half hour before you're going to do anything out there. So like when I'm changing the oil in my truck or my van or whatever, or I'm going to be doing something in the shop or out on the driveway, I'll go set it outside, run it for 30 minutes, and then I'll go out there and do my stuff. So that's helpful. These mats that you get only last 4 hours. So you want to change them every 4 hours of running, and then the butane bottles last 12 hours. So it's very simple. You get one bottle and 3 mats. Obviously, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So each mat runs 4 hours. The butane bottle runs 12. That's great when when you've got one running and it's running continuously, and oh, it's been 4 hours, time to change the mat. But I have a hard time remembering, especially if I start and stop them, because I'm only there for a little bit. Sometimes I'm like, I can't remember how many, how long do I have on this mat? Or if I'm running multiples, which one is low on butane and which one needs the mat changed out. Sometimes that's hard for me to remember if I'm running multiples. So if in doubt, if it's working and then all of a sudden it's not working, check on it. Make sure that it's still burning butane, and that the mat doesn't need to be replaced. So how is the mat basically turns white. And so here's a great example. So this is the one I just put in, and you can see how blue it is. And this is one that I've run a couple of times, and so you can see that it's not nearly as blue as it used to be. And so that one is probably due for changing, but I'm not really sure because I don't remember how many hours are on it. So what I may do is I may light it when I get somewhere. I may light it, and if I don't feel like it's being effective, I'll go ahead and just change the mat out. And so you can get off, because they tell you, in all the refill kits and everything, it's multiples of 3. So they'll give you 3 of these for every bottle you get, and you can see that sometimes you might change your mats out early or something like that. And so invariably, I always have more butane bottles than I do mats. So the good news is Thermacell has come out with some refill kits that sell you just mats, which is great, because I always recommend, if you're not sure and the bugs are bad, change that sucker out and make sure that you're getting the best coverage you can get. One last thing that I'll say about these is, there are times when the Thermacell just isn't enough. Sometimes those bugs, almost no matter what you do, they'll just come for you anyway. And I've found this when I'm camping in coastal areas of Florida with the no-see-ums, that the Thermacells do a great job, but they only get me about 80% of the way. And I don't know about you, but I seem to be super susceptible to no-see-ums, and my wife is really allergic. So she reacts to no-see-um bites. She just lights up. It glows red with them. So I don't know if she's allergic or what, just has a bad reaction. So there are times when I will run Thermacells and spray myself down with DEET at the same time. There's definitely times when you want both this and the Thermacells. The other thing is that when you're hiking and stuff like that, like I said, some folks put these in holsters and attach them to their belt and that kind of thing. And that does work pretty well, but you got to remember that you're moving. So depending on how fast you're moving, these things don't often have enough time to really set up a perimeter around you. So they can be less effective where you'll want the spray. And then the last thing to consider is they're not at all effective for ticks, I've found. So Typically, I don't pick up ticks at the campsite or when I'm filleting fish or out on the boat. Typically, I'm picking up ticks when I'm hiking and that kind of thing. And so when that rolls around, I'm always spraying myself down with some kind of DEET product to repel ticks. Thermacells work great for, like I said, no-see-ums, flies, and mosquitoes. But sometimes there's no substitute for a spray as well. So things like I said, like ticks, no-see-ums, and then sometimes just really, really stubborn bugs, or times when it's breezy and your Thermacell's just not keeping up with the wind. So Thermacell, like I said, says don't use it inside. It does say it's scent-free. So like right there on the box, they say it's scent-free. That's not true. I can smell it. So I don't know why they say that. It's not a bad smell. It's not a sickening smell. It's not a strong smell. So I would say the scent is very minor. For those of you guys who are going to use this for hunting and you're worried about giving off position for game, they do make an earth scent mat, and then they also make a scent-free mat. And I've never really messed with those. And I do hunt on occasion. I don't hunt very often, but I do hunt on occasion. And I don't think that it's ever really affected me. So Thermacell also makes, so this is the MR300, which is their new one. They also make an MR450, and it's a little more expensive. I think it's like 35 bucks. I didn't decide to buy one. It's got some rubberized texture here that makes it less susceptible to damage while dropping. This is made of pretty hard plastic, so it's pretty well impact resistant, but I have cracked one before, and I don't really know how I cracked it. I don't know whether I dropped it, if it fell out of the truck. I don't really know. Maybe it got stepped on because they're on the ground all the time. I don't know how it got cracked, but it was cracked. But it still rocked and rolled for 3 years, even though it was cracked. So I guess I can't complain that much. But anyway, the MR450, which is the next model up from this one, has kind of a rubberized outer coating. And then, so this is the sound it makes. I don't know how well the speaker's going to pick it up, but that's the sound it makes when it starts. And so, if you're sitting in a deer stand or you're hunting turkey or that kind of thing, you don't want the game to hear that sound. And so they say that on the MR450, they've made that button 80% quieter. So if that's important to you, by all means, go for that. And then they also have an indicator right here that I guess it turns blue. I don't really remember, but I think it says it turns blue when the appliance is hot and is actually putting out the fumes and keeping the bugs away. So that might be worth the additional $10 to you. It really wasn't to me because really I've been using these things so long without those features, didn't really need to move up. But like I said, they may be important to you. All in all, guys, being prepared for the bugs can make the difference between your camping trip, your fishing trip, or your hiking trip being awesome and being miserable. The last thing that you want to do is come home just full of bug bites, or your kids come home just full of bug bites. So you really want to be prepared for the bugs. So ultimately, I recommend having a couple of Thermacells and running those at the campsite or at the dock. Or on your hike or whatever, but also getting and experimenting with the different sprays. Like I said, I really recommend sprays with DEET, even though I hate putting it on my skin because I found that they're really effective. But you might want to try the Avon Skin So Soft and some of the other homemade remedies. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there talking about bug repellents. But bottom line, guys, I've been in the woods. Like I said, I was a wildlife biologist for 16 years. Working in wetlands and stuff like that, where the mosquitoes were the size of dump trucks and would carry you away. And this is what I ran. I ran a DEET spray, and I ran Thermacells. And I just think that they're really the most effective way to avoid the bugs. So as I said, I hope you find this useful. By all means, if you have tips and tricks for how you avoid the bugs, please drop those in the comments. I would love to try different things and then do videos. So like I said, I thought I've been thinking about messing with mint and citrus and some of that other stuff. But if you have something that works, I would love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. In other fellow outsiders, you guys can try that stuff too. I'm not sponsored by Thermacell or any bug repellent spray companies or anything like that. So this is just an open, honest review and opinion. This is what I do. This is how I protect my kids. This is how we stay happy at the campsite or at the boat ramp or at the fillet table. With that, remember, Kemp Outside is your inside source for all things outside. We exist to help moms and dads take their kids camping, hunting, fishing, and learning about fish and wildlife and developing a conservation ethic. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.